Senator Fischbach.
Mr. President, I move that the foregoing recommendations in Conference Committee report on Senate File 943 be now adopted and the bill be repassed as amended by the Conference Committee.
To that motion, Senator Fischbach.
Mr. President, this is the higher ed omnibus bill, and I did pass out a couple of things. There was some changes in the money, in particular, from the last bill we had in front of us. So I won't go through the entire bill. I'll use those two sheets to kind of guide us through. But we did have a $210 million target, and I will take up the first. There's a sheet, I believe you have it, it says overall target on the top, and it basically explains from where we were in Senate File 2214 and now from the change from the base. So that's what is in this Conference Committee report. And we've moved the state grant up $36 million. Min State is at 97, and then there's some more dollars down at the bottom of the sheet for Min State, although there was no changes, so they're a little higher than that, but that it does give this campus support line at 91 million. University of Minnesota shows there in core mission, Min Drive, and NRRI, they are 39.9 million approximately, and then they do have some additional dollars down at the bottom, so they equal about $50 million. And this is all new money that, that we have provided in that $210 million target. In addition, I handed out a sheet that talks about the policy. There weren't a whole lot of policy changes. There was some small things that we changed from the original Conference Committee report we had, I guess, last week or a little over a week ago, whenever that was. But the Office of Higher Ed, we originally in our Senate bill, we had 2% administration costs. We moved that up to 3%. So on some of those grants, they're able to use 3% for admin costs. There was some language that talked about the central office location and when Min State would be able to renew that current lease, and we took that language out. There is a tuition freeze, although we changed it a bit from the original bill. The original bill, I think, had a strict tuition freeze. What we've done in this Conference Committee report is in the first year, for the two-year colleges on Min State, the first year their tuition increase would be capped at 1%, and in the second year it would be a freeze. And then for the four-year schools, there's nothing in the first year that would restrict their tuition increases, but in the in the second year, they do have a tuition freeze. They do have some language for differential tuition if they need to for some of those higher cost programs that maybe students are paying a different tuition for that would not be the regular base tuition. The U of M is requested to do a tuition freeze, so hopefully they will be able to honor that request. The mandatory student fees that were an issue, the activity fees, they were just ended in the original bill in the Conference Committee we had. What we've done here is if they were going to increase the student fees more than 2%, then they would have to go to a referendum of the students, and that would take effect not necessarily this academic year or this fall, so it's fall of 17-18. But it would take effect the next year. But so we did change that into a referendum. Then we've also got a few things from OHE, the Office of Higher Ed, that they had asked for about. We had some student complaints language in there, and we added an appeals process, and so we worked that out with them, and they were satisfied with that. The workforce development scholarships will be started not this year, but the following. Their effective date will be July 1, 2018. So we provide them the opportunity to get the OHE, the applications and things like that, get the things ready to go. In addition to, I'm trying to think if there was anything else that we had. Oh, we did in the state grant calculation. We decreased the assigned family responsibility by 10%, and that will be helpful in the for students that are getting state grants. And I think I have covered, the state grant calculation, the living in a miscellaneous expense allowance, we set with federal poverty guidelines at 101%. We deleted the state grant report language there, and we added some clarification language for the supplemental aid to two-year MnSCU colleges. And I think I was reading off of this sheet, and I think you all have that. So I think that pretty much covers the changes that we had. And I would ask for a green vote, and I would be happy to answer any questions.
Further discussion on the motion to adopt the conference committee report. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor of adoption of the motion to adopt the report signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed, no. No. The motion does prevail. The Secretary will give the bill its third reading.
Senate File Number 943, a bill for an act relating to higher education, appropriating money.
Third reading. Any further discussion? Senator Isaacson.
Well, Mr. President, I would encourage you to have a seat and get comfortable. I've got some things I'd like to talk about when it comes to this bill. When we look at the various resources our state has to offer, and they are plentiful, and we look at probably one of the better educated, more engaged, voting, civilly active in our nonprofits and our organizations. It's a pretty amazing thing we have here in Minnesota that's easy to take for granted. And I think there's been many times that we have taken some of those things for granted. And I would say that this bill represents that. Now, let me be clear. The leadership, I think, Senator Fischbach showed within the framework that she was given, I think is probably about as good of a bill as she could eke out. And I don't fault her for that. I appreciate her passion for our education, and I really believe she wants to see a stronger, more robust higher education system in Minnesota. What I reject is the premise the framework was in the first place. I reject the premise of the framework that said we were locked within these parameters. Now, I've made this argument, gosh, I don't know, 1,000 times on the floor when it comes to the overall global budget targets and what we had and how much we could spend on different things. And I have passionately tried to really instill this idea that we have a system that's really set up that its only outcome is to make Minnesota better. And on top of that, it provides for an amazing ROI on the investment. Yet, despite that, and much to my disappointment, the governor apparently signed off on this agreement. Despite that, we continue to create what I feel is a punitive approach to our higher education system, and this bill particularly punitive to the University of Minnesota. Now, I realize it's going to be pretty tough. It's a pretty big haul for me, a pretty heavy lift for me to believe that I'm going to convince people here to take a stand when I have not been able to do so far, especially if the governor and leadership has signed off on a bill. But that's exactly what I'm going to ask you to do. I'm going to ask you to take a second and think about what we're doing with this bill. Think about what message it sends to our kids, what message it sends to the middle class, what message it sends to the really wonderful educators that work every day to try to make our state better by educating the young people in Minnesota. What message are we sending about our culture as a state? We have an opportunity this year to right the wrongs, to fix the cuts of 2011. Now, maybe it was necessary because we were in a recession. I get that. But we have historic cuts that we cut deep into the tissue of our higher education system in 2011, and now we're in a position where we can make some of that ground back up and reinvest right before the idea that we might have another recession, and really invest in our schools. And instead, we're going to double down on the same rhetoric and the same ideas. Now, granted, and I give Senator Fischbach credit, we put more money into it, and I think that's good. But if you understand the situation on the ground at the schools, understand the situation of the crushing student debt we're facing, understanding the rising, spiraling tuition costs, it doesn't matter that we threw a little at it, because it wasn't nearly enough for what needed to happen to maintain our schools at the levels that we want. And that's what's frustrating to me. Again, I say this, and I don't know if I can say it enough times. The only outcome of higher education is a better state. I'm not sure there are many things that an investment makes our state better so directly as investing in higher education, and the result is an educated populace. This bill looks backwards and not forwards, not because there wasn't some initial investment in the bill, but because it doesn't take into account that we're not even taking care of right now. We're still making up for before, and we're not even looking forward to what we've got in 4 years from now. We've got a global economy, folks. We're in the middle of a pseudo kind of manufacturing renaissance, and we can't find people to work the jobs. That's a problem, because they're not trained. They don't have what they need to be successful. And we're saying with this bill, we're not going to fix that. Folks, the premise that this framework of the targets, the global targets, the premise of the framework of what we're spending our money on was flawed from the beginning. Now, I realize my friends across the aisle, and I call them friends because I have had a really good time getting to know people on the other side of the aisle, came here with a promise about tax cuts. And I get it. You got to live up to your promise. We say something, we got to be to our word. But I think that when you get here and you see the nuts and bolts of how we make laws, of how we affect people's lives, we got to ask ourselves a question: what's best for Minnesota? Unfortunately, this bill isn't, and allow me to explain why. Let's start with MnState. So MnState comes to us with an ask that's about $25 million or $20 million less than what they actually need. They came to us and said, this is what we need, and we're also going to tell you we're willing to take a $20 million cut and absorb it within the schools. We're going to take a $20 million cut and absorb it within schools. So they came in with good faith, gave an honest request, and we're coming in way short of what they asked for. Why is that significant? It's bargaining, right? That's how it works. You come in high, they come in low, and you meet somewhere in the middle. The problem is that works when you're sitting in like your standard operating procedures, when everything's kind of normal. The reality is that's not where we're sitting. Listen, I teach at these schools. I watch the janitor's hours get cut. I watch less supplies be there. But more importantly, I watch less activities happen. Now we're changing the culture of education in our schools, and this is where it starts. Research has conclusively shown, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that when a student is engaged in extracurricular activities, they are going to have a better GPA and a better chance of graduating. This bill does not help enhance that. This bill steps backwards on that. Not to mention, in general, the loss of funding that's going to be created and the amount of cuts we're going to ask them to absorb. And on top of that, we still have a tuition freeze in there. Folks, I get it. It's a sexy, great topic on the campaign trail. Man, I froze tuition. I get it. It sounds good in the soundbite. But look at what you're doing on the ground in the schools. I'm working on staying forward. It's hard for me to do that. Look at what we're doing on the ground in the schools. This tuition freeze ties their hands behind their back, and it's going to remove the ability of them to provide what they need. Folks, allow me to flip the script for a second. Imagine instead of saying, you know what, we're going to just try to balance this with everything else, we say, let's go all in on education. Let's look at and invest in what jobs are coming down the pipeline in the next 10 years, and let's get our schools situated to meet that demand. This bill doesn't do any of that. What I just said is common sense and should be the norm on how we approach education. Period. Again, I'm going to say it. The outcome of higher education makes our state better, and this bill doesn't enhance that. That's a problem. I'm going to tell you a couple stories about a few students that I know that are going to be affected by this bill. A couple years ago, I had a student come in who was living in a hotel, recently homeless, missing, I'd say, 2/3 of her teeth, trying to make an honest effort in her 30s to figure some things out and take a stab at making her life better, not only for her, but her daughter, who was also going there. She had a a tough circumstance in life, and I could see that life had not been easy for her. But she had somehow found her way to the doors of Century College. And I worked with her, and I'll tell you what, she wasn't ready. She wasn't ready to take on the role of a college student, but she had the desire and the drive and the willingness to do whatever it took. So I suggested tutoring. I suggested going to the Access Center and getting support, whatever that support needed, financial aid support, psychological support, whatever you needed to get you through to the next day to show up to class. And I will never forget, third test of the year, she comes into me and she's crying. And she hands me the test back. She got a B, and she had never got a B before. That changed her life. I remember being in an alternative high school as a person with a 1.1 or 1.2 GPA, getting my first good grade at an alternative high school, and how that opened the world to me. We're making it with this bill so less of those students come in the door. I have another student. After the Arab Spring, emigrated from a Middle Eastern country, had been a successful business person there with a family, degrees, the whole 9 yards, and lost all of it in the Arab Spring. Had to start over. Came here and understood that life is hard and sometimes not fair, put his boots back on, and realized the first thing he's got to do is get better at English and get a degree so he can go on and find a job. Suffered through my class, struggled through my class, trying to get English down, studied hard, did extra homework, the whole 9 yards, got out of there with a C. I'm not an easy grader, folks. Got out of there with a C. And that was a C he had earned. No questions asked. Solid. I didn't give him anything. We're making it harder for that person to come here and experience the American dream when you leave persecution and you leave a bad place for something better, which is what America's supposed to be, and we're making that harder with this bill. I can't even tell you the number of times teaching at Century College, which, by the way, is literally the most honorable and wonderful thing I've had the opportunity to do, that I've had students like the two I just shared with you. I have 1,000 stories like that I shared with you, who had the opportunity to come in and see a better life. But more importantly, I had the opportunity to help them see the better life they could make for themselves. But you know what? This bill is going to make sure there's less people like me there teaching, because there's going to be less class and less teachers. So again, we have failed. Shame on us, shame on the governor, shame on everybody involved by accepting this framework, because this bill is flawed and does not make Minnesota a better place. It sets us backwards. Let's talk about the University of Minnesota for a second. I have to work hard to be rational when I talk about what we're doing to them in this bill. Min State's bad enough with the tuition freezes and the nominal increases, or not even getting close to what they need to continue to operate, this pretending like inflation doesn't exist. Minskew is bad enough, but what we're doing to the U, that's unconscionable. It's been said many times before, and I'll say it again, the University of Minnesota is a crown jewel, not just in Minnesota, but for our country. It produces Nobel laureates. It produces some of the greatest minds and some of the biggest solutions. I said it before, and I'm going to tell you the story again. I have a friend that has a kind of cancer that only 17 people in the world have. And wouldn't you know that the person who specializes in fixing this cancer is at the University of Minnesota? Wouldn't you know my best friend, and I was the best man in his wedding, is around today with his kids, working hard and enjoying life, because the specialist he needed was right there at the University of Minnesota. What we're doing makes that happen less. They're already losing research scholars because of the crazy politics we're playing up here on fetal cell tissue research and on the way we jack around funding. They're already losing some of the best and brightest minds. Remember when I asked you the last time we talked about this version of the bill, I said, do we really want our peers to be Alabama, Mississippi, and Missouri? No, we don't. We don't. But this bill puts us on that path. My understanding, and someone could correct me if I'm wrong, I think the funding formula puts the University of Minnesota at approximately 33% of what was available. and that the Min State was at 67, I believe. If I'm wrong, someone can correct me, but that was my understanding when we walked out of caucus. This isn't a community college that's helping out a community get better with local regional labor needs, that's taking care of some kids that couldn't quite make it in high school, or people that find their way back there after getting tired of working minimum wage. This is a Tier 1 research institution that brings in the best and brightest minds around the world. And we treat it like it's a petulant child. And that is unacceptable. Does that mean that they don't make mistakes at times? For sure they do. They're a giant organization. Is there going to be some bad apples? I'm sure there is. We're watching and have went through some of those turmoils recently. Did they rightly get their hands slapped, if not more, from the situation that happened with their psychology department? Absolutely. And was I in total agreement with that? I was, because they needed that. But the reality is that for every bad apple, there are groves of apple trees of good people doing good things at the University of Minnesota. Groves of them. But we focus on the one or two negative. I go back to my friend who's walking around today because of that cancer specialist. I watched numerous lives get changed at the University of Minnesota when I was there teaching. What they bring back to this state is almost beyond measure. And we act like there's some sort of ungrateful son that we don't want to give money to. That's just ridiculous. These are some of the brightest and best, most accomplished people in their field who've located in Minnesota, work at the University of Minnesota, and they work to make our state stay on the map. They bring in millions of dollars in research grants. They do amazing things in economics and robotics and in architecture and engineering, not to mention medicine. And here we are punishing them in this bill. This bill is punitive. I don't care what anybody says. This is a punitive bill. And it is unacceptable. It is unacceptable, and I'll say it to the governor, I'll say it to the majority leader, I'll say it to the speaker, and every Minnesotan that will listen. There isn't a clearer case in our behavior here of where we are cutting off our nose to spite our face by the way we've chose to address funding for higher education. Now, some of you might say, jeepers, we should get this passionate about health and human services, or K-12, or jobs. And I think we should. We should be this passionate about all of them. But for some reason, we're allowing this one to get kicked around again. Now, I get it. You're putting a little extra money in there, and that's not bad. That's good. But we have an opportunity to make it much better. We have an opportunity to tell Minnesota that we're making this priority, and we don't. No matter what argument is made today, at the end of the day, we have prioritized tax cuts ahead of the students of Minnesota. Let me make this clear if there's one thing anybody hears. The Republican Party, the Minnesota GOP, is raising the tuition at the University of Minnesota by starving them for funds, by not taking their responsibility seriously, by widening that gap of what the state responsibility is versus the student responsibility. There is no other way about it. It would be different if we had a tuition, if we had a deficit spending right now, but we do not. It'd be different if we had deficit spending, because then the cut would be warranted. We do not. Now they're going to have to raise their tuition 5 to 6%. Again, because we continue to disinvest in higher education in Minnesota. We continue to make our higher education system not a priority, which is what we're telling our students and our middle-class families that are struggling to get their kids through college, that they're not a priority. Folks, you need to take a stand at some point. I know the likelihood is pretty small. I've been around long enough, not that long, but long enough to know it's a futile effort. But I will continue, as long as I have breath, to continue to talk about this issue and tell people we are making a mistake. We have an opportunity to make this better, and we are not. And here's the problem, folks. You know what's going to happen after the bill gets signed? If it goes as it is now? Nothing. People are not going to feel it right now. But do you remember the metaphor I used last time? And I talked about how we disinvested in vocational education, and now 20 years later, we're sitting here with this real crisis of being able to find skilled labor? That metaphor is going to come true again, except you know what it's going to be? It's not going to be in the manufacturing sector. It's going to be in our voter turnout. It's going to be in our civic engagement. It's going to be in our ability to provide workers for Minnesota that are educated and at a high level. This generational problem is going to be much bigger next time, and there's no fix in that. Once we go down that rabbit hole, it is really hard to get back. Ask Alabama, ask Missouri, ask Mississippi. Do you think they like being last in all these rubrics? No, they don't. It's hard to get out of that. We're still there, and we have a chance to stay there. We have a rare moment to be proactive about a problem rather than reactive. We have a chance to get ahead of the 8 ball on this one, and we took a swing and missed completely. It is our responsibility. That's what we are elected to do. Our job is to make it so Minnesota's a better place when we're done, not worse. Period. That's our job. That's what we come here to do. This bill does not do that. This bill does not lower tuition in a way that's meaningful while allowing the state schools to be funded. This bill does not relieve student debt in a significant way. This bill does not make sure that we're investing in future technologies. This bill does not help us that way. It is token at best, and it is a disappointment. Shame on us as a state government for allowing this bill to become law. And I hope you take that seriously and think about it. Read the bill, ask questions, stand up for your local schools, stand up for your students, stand up for the middle class that's going to pay for the increased costs. Let us not forget, the Minnesota GOP is causing the University of Minnesota to raise its tuition. And I will be talking about that on Twitter and every place I go because that is the God's honest truth. Please vote no on this bill.
Senator Fischbach.
Mr. President, the Minnesota GOP, the state Senate, the House of Representatives cannot raise tuition at the University of Minnesota. The only ones who can raise tuition at the University of Minnesota is the Board of Regents. And Senator Simonson, Mr. President, Senator Simonson, I appreciate your passion. And there's Isaacson, I'm sorry. Was I looking at the wrong person? I'm sorry, Isaacson. Looking at the, but Mr. President, it just went a little bit too far. Accusing us of being punitive was a little too far, and I stayed in my seat, but it is not punitive. We increased the target the best we could. Remember, the original bill started out at 125, and we moved to $210 million. There are a lot of good things in this bill that we are just completely overlooking. Senator Isaacson mentions his student, the homeless student. There's $350,000 in this bill to help homeless students, to help students with emergencies, to help students if they have issues with food, cars, whatever the case is. That's in this bill. There's financial aid money in this bill. We increased the state grant program. There's developmental education language that will help deal with the issues of having to take additional classes. There's lots of things for the U of M. You mentioned, Mr. President, Senator Isaacson mentioned a friend with cancer, I believe. There's money in here for DRIVE, for cancer research. There's money for health training, the health training restoration money. There's family practice money. It is not a punitive bill. We are doing the best we can with the dollars we had. We are not raising tuition. We cannot raise tuition. The Board of Regents will have to make that decision by themselves, and we are not allowed to influence them. We have suggested to them that they do not raise tuition, but we cannot make a law that they can't do that. They need to make that decision. But this is not a punitive bill. There are a lot of good things that are being overlooked in this bill. We are raising dollars to go to our min-state schools. Alexandria Tech, I just want to read a couple of these as an example. Alexandria Tech will see $1.4 million more dollars. Century College, you mentioned you taught at Century College. Century College will see $4.7 million more dollars under this bill. And that's just to name a few. It's a good bill. It helps the schools, it helps the students. There are a lot of good things in this bill that are being overlooked. And I would appreciate a green vote.
Senator Isaacson, a friendly reminder about the Senate rules of decorum and debate, but
well
Senator
taken.
Isaacson.
And I would like to amend my comments and apologize When I said that, I could see where that was taken as a motive, and I really want to be clear about this. And I thought I was clear about this. I don't believe Senator Fischbach doesn't want to see schools succeed. When I say punitive, I mean that I can't find another logical reason why we would promote this bill in a way that seems to punish, or at least limit the amount of funding that goes to the University of Minnesota. I can't find a logical reason, but I should not say punitive, and I stand corrected on that. But let me make clear a comment that Senator Fischbach had made. You are right. The Board of Regents does raise tuition. And if we lived in a vacuum, that argument would make a lot of sense. Just like putting in $350,000 for homeless people sounds great in a vacuum, but let's put it into the overall context of the budget. You just said Century College is going to get $4.7 million. Great. Now that makes up for the money they're going to spend for the cut that was asked, and they're back at zero again. It doesn't even talk about investing in new things. This idea of the tuition not being raised, they don't have a choice. You're asking them to say, you know what we're going to do? We're going to say we can raise tuition, or we can just become a subpar university. Which would we choose? I think we're going to choose to be not a subpar university. You have put them in a position where they don't have another choice. What other choice do they have besides raising tuition when you cut their funding? There isn't another choice. So you're right. I can't say I don't think Senator Fischbach has a bill that says they will raise the tuition. I'm not insinuating that. But what I am saying is your actions here guarantees a tuition increase will happen. And there is a causal relationship, folks. And to pretend like that doesn't exist is part of the problem with this bill and the way we've been budgeting all along. Like in a vacuum, like things occur on their own. I think you remember earlier, I got a little crazy with the word intellectually dishonest, and I got some people's dander about that. And I understand. What I meant by that is exactly what we're talking about here. And I'm not insinuating that she's being intellectually dishonest, but what I don't like is when we make an argument that sounds good in a vacuum, but when put in the context of what else is happening, it doesn't work. That's what's happening with this bill. That's the argument that's being made. $350,000 sounds like a lot of money to a normal person. It's a lot of money to me, but when you put it in the context of the budget, you know what? Doesn't get it done. Period. That's the problem. Thank you.
Senator Cohen.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to talk for just a couple of minutes relative to the University of Minnesota. And I understand the pressures that finance chairmen are under. I've been there. And I certainly understand in the context of negotiations that Senator Fischbach, and I'm a member of her committee, has stated a number of times as to her dissatisfaction with the target of the Senate bill as it originally passed. So I in no way impugn what Senator Fischbach has said or done. But I do think we've reached a point, maybe not a tipping point, but a point on which we should be very careful. Historically, when we have allocated monies to the higher education bill, we have approximated a division between the MnSTATE system and the University of Minnesota system. 2 years ago, I was, to use a word, flabbergasted when, during the conference committee process, the other body was just adamant about not maintaining that approximate division, whether it's 50-50 or 55-45 for MnSTATE, whatever it might be, but some approximation. I would suggest that the division in this bill of about 2/3, 1/3 is simply unacceptable. The University of Minnesota, whatever its faults might be, is the land-grant research university in a mid-sized state. And here in Minnesota, that makes it the single most important institution, public or private, that we have, for all the reasons that Senator Isaacson articulated. I think what's happened, however, is now the university is a place that we see through only its faults. So if we don't like something with the football team, we don't like something with tuition, we don't like something with the fact that some of our constituents did not get accepted, we then take it out on the university. And it becomes a vicious circle. Senator Fischbach is correct in stating that the legislature is not raising tuition. But when we take away what historically had been a public university system funded 2/3 by the state and 1/3 by other sources, and now we flip that number on its head, then if we expect the university to maintain the quality that it has, we've not been giving them the funds to do so. So as a consequence, they raise tuition. Then we get angry at them because they've raised tuition. Then because we're angry at them, we decrease the money we give to them. It's a vicious circle. And what happens is gradually, we don't see it in front of us all of a sudden, but day by day, we start to see a decrease in the university and in its quality. And when that happens, the quality of the state lessens significantly. We also forget, for all of us who grew up in Minnesota, that if we go back X number of years ago, where the university was a very accessible, low-cost public university, I didn't happen to go to the university, but I certainly know all my friends who went from high school to the university, where it was an accessible school, folks in the state, students were easily admitted. The university back then, whether it be 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years, 40 years ago, was what it is today, a huge school. Only today, we have a state's population that has increased exponentially. How big do we want the University of Minnesota to be? Do we want it to be 80,000 students, 100,000 students? Because if not, and it's maintained as still a very large undergraduate campus, then some of the accessibility starts to diminish. That's just the demographic reality. But to take all the complaints that each of us visit upon the University of Minnesota, and as a consequence, as legislators, we then take it out on the University of Minnesota, is something that is not only short-sighted, something that is simply unfair, and members, something we've never done before until 2 years ago. Whether we were in deficit, whether we were in surplus, there was an approximation of the division of money between the systems. Left to my druthers, I would certainly want to make this bill a larger bill in terms of the total dollar amount. But I would certainly be a lot happier about the bill if, even at the same dollar amount, there was the historic approximation between the University of Minnesota, this most important institution in the state, and the equal very important min-state campuses. It's simply unfair, it's short-sighted, and if we don't regret it tomorrow, I promise you, 5, 10 years from now, if we continue this, we will regret it.
Senator Limmer.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would wish to impose a call of the Senate.
Senate is under call.
You're not voting for this, right? I got 4 bills. Funding for programs underserved kids.
Yeah, got it. You got it done? Good job. What you doing, Buffers?
Senator Limmer.
Thank you, Mr. President. I move that further proceedings on the roll call be dispensed with, that the Sergeant-at-Arms be instructed to bring in absent members.
On that motion, all in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed, no. The motion does prevail. Senator Latz.
Mr. President and members, I'm going to quote from a famous ex-president, paraphrase. Well, here we go again. When I was first elected to the legislature in 2002, the state provided 2/3 of the funding for our higher education system. As Senator Cohen indicated, now the state provides 1/3 of the funding for our higher education system. We've been cutting and cutting and cutting for 15 years. There have been a few years in there where we've managed to increase, but we never quite clawed back to the level of funding when I first came in to office, after you account for ordinary inflation in the higher education sector. So when we come in here and complain, and when our constituents complain about tuition increases, as others have said, there's a reason for it. It's because the state has failed in our obligation and our responsibility to provide the funding for our higher education system. And I'm most particularly concerned about the University of Minnesota. I mean, I get the politics of it. There's a Men's State bricks and mortar institution in probably every legislative district, almost every legislative district in the state, certainly far more than University of Minnesota physical campus locations. And so the political pressure on each member here to make sure they try to get funding for their Men's State institution in their district, in their community, is pretty intense. And I respect that because those are important places for higher education. But if you look for the political support for the University of Minnesota, it has to be about more than what's in your district. Even how many students or families in your district have attended the U. It has to be based on a bigger picture, a grander scheme, a higher understanding of what the University of Minnesota means to all of Minnesota. It is the premier research institution in the state. You know why we have Medtronic? Because we had the University of Minnesota. And if you look at the entire medical products industry that's in Minnesota, which is centered largely around the first and most successful company, Medtronic, you can see the University of Minnesota grads working throughout there. Businesses all around Minnesota collaborate and partner with the University of Minnesota on research projects because the scientific expertise that is at the University of Minnesota is not replicated anywhere else in the state. A very important mission of the University of Minnesota is exactly that research that provides scientific breakthroughs that can be converted to business opportunities and jobs. And that's not to say anything about the other important things that they do, like those scientific breakthroughs that help save lives, such as from Senator Isaacson's friend. University of Minnesota brings in, I don't know what the number is now this year, $700 million or so in federal research grants. It's an amazing amount of money. It's a huge component. It's about 1/3 or so of the money it takes to run the university, too. And they employ some of the best and the brightest graduate students and researchers and professors in the entire country. That's what has made the University of Minnesota a magnet and attraction from around the world for students to come here to Minnesota. And many of them, they come here and they stay here. And they raise their families here and they build their businesses here. If the University of Minnesota isn't adequately funded, the best and the brightest Minnesotans will look elsewhere. And I know very close to home that happens, because the opportunities that they want aren't available at the University of Minnesota because of a shortage of resources. And we will have fewer people coming in from the international scene, from around the world, to come here. The best and the brightest students from around the world who are looking and have their pick of places to come as graduate students won't be coming here as often. And frequently they come to departments that, if you're talking about the STEM areas in particular, that are well-funded research departments. They have laboratories with state-of-the-art equipment. They've got star professors. And you've got graduate students or potential graduate students that have their choice of where to go. They're going to be looking at these things. And they're going to want to know that they're going to come to an institution that is cutting edge on these things. And every time that we fail to properly fund the University of Minnesota, we diminish our future economy, we diminish our future quality of life in Minnesota. So I absolutely agree with the previous speakers that the legislature is to blame for tuition increases at the University of Minnesota, and frankly at Min State as well. Because our failure to fund those institutions causes them to have to raise the money to pay for the educational services they provide from some other source. In fact, that's probably why they get cut so badly when we have deficits in this state, because we as a legislature know that they have another source of revenue to keep their doors open. But that's a very short-sighted approach, members, a very short-sighted approach. It's gotten to the point, and I've said this unfortunately for a number of years now, it's gotten to the point where one could accurately describe this not as the University of Minnesota, but the University in Minnesota, because the public tax dollars are only paying for about a third of that institution's costs of operation. It's really more of a private system now with some state or public support. And it really pains me to say that, because yes, this higher ed target could have been much better if the majority weren't so fixated on tax cuts. Because I can guarantee you that you're not going to find a whole lot of the people receiving their tax cuts at the end of this legislative session saying, I'm going to take my tax cut and write out a check as a donation to the University of Minnesota because I think that's where my money should go. And they're not going to write out a check and send it to the Department of Transportation to say, here, use this to help fix the potholes on the highway out in front of my house. And they're not going to take that tax refund and write out a check and send it to the Department of Human Services and say, use this to pay for the personal care attendant that's taking care of my neighbor's grandmother, or the grandmother of someone I don't even know. They're not going to do that. And so, yes, to a large degree, people know how to spend their money and they spend it well. But the state is the method by which we act collectively as a community, how we make collective decisions to prioritize in Minnesota what can be done that is not easy for individuals to fund on their own. And when we fail in that responsibility in the higher education arena or any of the other budget areas that we'll be making decisions on in the next few days, we suffer collectively as well. So I will challenge you, when you get that constituent call that complains about tuition increases, be honest with them. Tell them that they might not have had to face that kind of a tuition increase if we'd made different priority choices in our budget this year. I don't think that this bill is worthy of a vote for a variety of reasons, including the reasons that Senator Cohen was very careful to explain about the balance between Min State and the University of Minnesota, because it does not recognize the priority that we need to set, even a balance of priority that we need to set on the University of Minnesota in this bill. Senator Fischbach, I have a great deal of respect for you and the work that you do, but this bill has shortchanged the University of Minnesota, and as a consequence is shortchanging Minnesota's future. I urge members to vote no.
Senator Draheim.
Thank you, Mr. President. I could get up and talk about who was in charge over the last 15 years, who made the decision, who made the budgets, what percentage was this and that, but I'm not going to do that. I'm going to focus on the good parts of this bill. And I want to thank first the committee members that worked hard on a lot of good bills that got put on here on both sides of the aisle. It was a very bipartisan committee, in my opinion. We did a lot of good discussion. We had a lot of good bills thrown into this omnibus bill that we all wish would have more money. But the facts are we were given a number. We worked with that number, and I think we did a good job of coming up with a good compromise. I'm especially thankful for the state grant program. I think we're funding a good program that affects all the kids in Minnesota, no matter where they chose to go or choose to go. And we have a lot of work to do. I urge a green vote, and let's work on doing better next budget cycle. Thank you.
Next on my list, Senator Clausen.
Well, thank you, Mr. President. I think if we look back on the history of our state and look forward to the future of Minnesota, our educated workforce is one of our greatest assets. It has been and will continue to be. And we also know that education is one of our fundamental responsibilities here of this body. Our higher education institutions train our workforce, they provide research to grow our businesses and industries and our economy, and they provide opportunities for personal growth and economic fulfillment. And I really believe that Minnesotans have always believed in and invested in education attainment because it leads to a better life. It's been discussed here on the floor that we have an inadequate bill. I think it's inadequate because of the funding, and that's been stated, I think, many times here. And sometimes that's out of the control of many of the people that served on the committee and on the conference committee. I think we really need to ask ourselves, what do we envision for the state of Minnesota in the future? We know that per pupil funding for our public higher education institutions is 15% below the 2008 levels. Minnesota ranks 26th among states in higher education financial support. There was one time that we were in the top 10. And I also think that Senator Latz and others have talked about the problems here in the legislature where we have decreased funding in supporting for tuition from in the high 70s, and I think now we're in the mid 40%. And that's passed on tuition costs to our students and families. I think I said a few days ago that demographics are changing in the state of Minnesota. I talked about how in the past we never really had to look at the raw material for our workforce because they came from the small towns and farms of North and South Dakota, Iowa, Wisconsin, and that's definitely changing. And we need to adjust with that. We need to provide more opportunities to grow our own workforce that's here in Minnesota. And a great deal of that workforce is going to come from our communities of color. We also know that and believe that education has always been a route to a better life, but student debt is really threatening that vision, that hope, that dream, for the reasons that has been discussed here today. I think it's been also well discussed about most problematic in the bill is the lack of funding for the University of Minnesota, our land-grant flagship institution, where an increase is less than 2%. and that's dramatically lower than the university needs. And we have to remember the University of Minnesota is an economic driver in our state through the research, the outreach, and if we don't support the University of Minnesota through the legislative appropriation, we pass that responsibility on to student tuition and families. There are some good things in the bill. It's been documented, it's been talked about. We did increase the state grant. However, it's well below where Governor Dayton would like to see that, and I think it falls short of increasing about 4,000 families. If we would have upped that to the governor's request, we could have funded perhaps 4,000 more requests for the Minnesota grant funds. So with that, I just want to remind people that many of us here are here because we received assistance from the state of Minnesota to better ourselves through education. And we have a responsibility to pass that on to current and future generations. Thank you.
Senator Isaacson. Okay, Senator Schoen.
Well, thank you, Mr. President and members. I want to take a little different scope on this. You have a football team that's struggling, you recruit a new coach, and you hope for the best. You bring in a high-energy person, and we did that at the U of M, and we got big hopes. Going to recruit some talent, bring new folks in. Well, guess what? That happens in our academic programs, too. We need to recruit good talent, show that we're invested in the programs, so that we can bring those professors in, those educators in, that are going to attract the students that want to come to the University of Minnesota to learn, that want to demonstrate that we are a leader, that want to demonstrate that this is the place to be and to do research. It's been an interesting learning session for me to understand how the University of Minnesota actually has foundations that raise money from donors from all over the world, trying to offset what we don't do for them here at the Minnesota legislature. And thank goodness for those wonderful people that take on that challenge of literally traveling the world to find people to donate millions of dollars so that they can give scholarships, build new buildings to do research in, because what did we do at the U of M when we wanted to recruit football players? Well, we built a new football stadium. That should help. Well, we've got to do those things for academia as well, too. We've got to get back on track for higher ed. This is not going to lighten the debt load for my kids or anyone else's. We got to keep focusing on that. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator Pappas.
Thank you, Mr. President and members. I really agree with what a lot of my colleagues have said about the unfairness in this bill to the University of Minnesota, our premier research institution. But I want to really focus a little bit on the students, because I don't think anyone has talked about the importance of the student grant. And, we have one of the best student grant programs in the country, coupled with the federal money, really gives our students more choices as we talk about educational choices here, to go to the university that fits their needs and fits the academic needs that they have and the personal and social needs that they have. And the University of Minnesota is getting more expensive, and a lot of that is our fault. As Senator Latz said, we're not putting the money into education that we used to, and so tuition has gone up. But the student grant really helps mitigate that. And it really helps also increase diversity in our educational system, in both our private colleges and at the university. That's where the student grant is most well used. And if we are facing a workforce shortage, we have a lot of students that have been underserved in the past, that are non-traditional students whose parents didn't go to college, maybe they're immigrants, whatever, that need to get that college education. And it doesn't say that they're not bright, it just means that they don't know the process, they don't know how to do it. And some of our private colleges do a better job at reaching out to them. And another reason why Senator Uyghur and others, Senator Kent, that we need counselors in the schools is to make sure that our students really understand the choices that they have. I like to tell the story about McAllister being my dream college, but everyone in my high school went to the University of Minnesota. And it was a tough place to be back in the 60s. It's much, much better now. Very large, but I wasn't able to really find a good niche there for myself. Whereas some of our smaller private colleges, kids are really involved, they're really engaged, they really are valued and watched to make sure they graduate in 4 years. And the state grant really helps them to do that. So I'm really disappointed. The governor had requested another $68 million. There is $26 million in here. It's something, but considering how many students we have, how many students we need to educate, how many need the state grant in order to be successful in completing college, that's just not enough.
Senator Cohen. Any further discussion? Senator Fischbach.
Mr. President, I just wanted to, I think that Senator Pappas mentioned there was 26 million in, we're adding 36 million to the state grant program, and the total amount, that 36 million is new money, and the total amount is just under $200 million that we do spend on the state grant program. But I just wanted to make sure, in case I had heard that right. Okay, so that it is 36 million. But just finally, I'd just like to say I understand, I appreciate the discussion and the things that people were saying today, but like I said earlier, I think that there's a lot of good things in this bill, and we did increase that to $210 million, and it within the framework we're at right now, I think that is that's a good amount of money, and I think that we put it to good use in the bill, and I would appreciate a green vote. Thank you.
The Secretary will take the roll on Senate File 943.
Lizzie, what's up? Hey, your food's here. You saw it. It smells good. Yeah, I don't know what it is. It smells good.
I don't think you can be seen.
Oh my God, let's pack this pop. Oh yeah, I can't get back in there. How you doing? Good, buddy. What did he say? I know what he did. I told my mother in Rochester too. You get my shit like this. I gotta do what I gotta do. I support. Trent, baby. I've been on these guys all year. Bringing these guys, they don't give two shits. Just the ladies when they're going after one of the region.
All those senators having voted or desire to vote, the secretary will close the roll. There being 39 ayes and 28 nays, the bill is passed and its title agreed to.